With The Boys Season 4 wrapping up, there's a lot to look forward to in The Boys universe. If you've been watching the show from the beginning, you know that every season in the universe so far has been one massive build-up to the finale of the show. The series has a fascinating way of roping you in and increasing the stakes every single season, and it's all going to come to a massive series conclusion in 2026. One of the things The Boys is known for is a sense of realism in a world of superheroes. They've done this from the very beginning, and it's an essential part of the storyline. In fact, the entire story is about superheroes actually being horrible people behind the scenes, constantly abusing their powers. You can see this dozens of times throughout virtually every single episode, but it goes much further than that. If you really pay attention, The Boys mocks a lot more than just superhero content. It mocks politics. It mocks the far right and also the woke liberals. One thing that The Boys mocks more than anything, though, is other superhero brands and franchises. You can see this many times throughout the show. A great example of this is in Season 4 when Vought announces a new TV show and movie lineup in the Vought universe.
You on the VCU timeline.
Phases 7 through 19.
This is essentially the Vought version of the DCEU or the MCU. This slate of projects had literally a ton of different stuff on it. It was a carbon copy replica of what you could see on a D23 slate for the MCU. Although now, many fans are arguing that there's a certain irony to this. Fans are saying that The Boys can't mock different universes anymore. The reason for this is the recent announcement of spin-offs that have been confirmed in The Boys universe. There's a certain vocal minority in the fan base that believes that The Boys is, as a franchise, hypocritical in their satire on other universes now. If you aren't aware, The Boys universe has the main show titled The Boys. The Boys also has a spin-off show titled Gen V and has now been confirmed for 2 more spin-offs titled Vought Rising and The Boys Mexico. Gen V was fairly well received and was generally considered a solid spin-off of The Boys, retaining all the shining qualities. It included gore, violence, satire, and comedy. The main issue with Gen V for people was the college drama tropes that happen in virtually every college-oriented TV show. The newest confirmed spin-off, Vought Rising, will star Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy and Aya Cash as Stormfront. Both of these are recurring characters in The Boys universe, and a lot of people want to see Jensen Ackles return. The plot is currently being kept under wraps, but it's alleged to take place 50 years before the main spin-off series and could possibly show the first Herogasm event in The Boys. And as for the Mexico spin-off, we actually don't know anything. Gen V Season 2 is also confirmed to come out before the final season of The Boys, which seems like it'll come out in May 2026 or summer of 2026. And there's one more piece of media that Eric Kripke wants to do for The Boys, and that's actually a movie. He's actually stated that he wants to do an interconnected movie to wrap up the plot of the main storyline. Anyways, the point is that at some point in 2027, we'll have 4 confirmed shows within the same universe, with 3 of them being spin-offs. I guess the question is now, is it really hypocritical of The Boys to do this? I think in this case, there's only one way to really figure out the answer, and that's comparing The Boys content to the content that it makes fun of. So let's take a look at Marvel. Currently in the MCU, there's 58 projects that have come out so far that are all canon to the universe. With Iron Man being the first one in 2008, that's 15 years for 58 projects, or around 4 projects a year. Now let's talk about fan enjoyment regarding these projects. Over the course of 15 years, the MCU's movies have had a rolling average of an 80% audience score, and to be honest, this is pretty impressive. But to be straight up, these stats don't really mean anything. It's hard to compare 2 franchises that are so different at the core. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is a long-running world that kickstarted live-action universes altogether. Now, virtually every successful movie or TV show has spin-offs and projects dedicated to them, with the intention of providing fans with more context to side characters, storylines, and of course, milking the names for as much goddamn money as they can. You can even see this milking happening in franchises like John Wick, with a 3-episode spin-off coming out in early 2024 called The Continental. Even movies like the Alien franchise are expanding, with us getting a TV show called Aliens Earth in 2025. My point is that this is the direction that TV is headed in. New-gen superhero fans don't want 22-episode long seasons like The Flash used to have. They want 10 episodes of action, with the shows being wrapped up before the writers find a way to script the finale. Some examples of this is Game of Thrones and Dexter. Now, both of those storylines are being extended into different spin-offs. And to be honest, what's wrong with ending an amazing show when it should be ended? Now you can simply just enjoy another storyline in the same universe without having to miss the original one. These projects give people a sense of contentness because they can visualize 2 different stories taking place in one world. It's interconnected and it's really cool. And that's why so many people were disappointed in Marvel when Phase 4 and 5 felt super disconnected entirely. So I feel like spin-off shows are a cool idea, but it's very possible that it goes too far. Anyways, let's put this into perspective. Is 4 confirmed TV shows shows in the boys universe really too much? I think at the core, the determining factor of universe fatigue only happens sometimes, and it happens when spin-off projects lose the charm of what made the original so great. We've seen this happen with shows like The Walking Dead. It had a great run, but certain spin-offs like Fear the Walking Dead and The Walking Dead World Beyond simply didn't share the same sense of family that the main show had. I guess the point is, will shows like Gen V and Vought Rising take away from what made The Boys so special? Personally, I don't think so. What makes The Boys so good is that it's a universally fresh perspective to the superhero genre. It actively fights superhero fatigue and destroys tropes that made superhero content so dull in the first place. If we get more shows that bring unique perspectives to superhero content, I'm all for it. And the truth is, I highly doubt that any director or any writer will be able to replicate the brilliance of The Boys once the show and its respective spin-offs have ended. So why not enjoy them while they're here? It's not like we're getting 12 different projects every year for 10 years. As long as the quality isn't diluted, I say they should go for it. I think it's important to remember that at the end of the day, The Boys is a franchise like any other. Sure, they make fun of other franchises, but at the very core, they're also a company that puts millions of dollars into paying actors, artists, writers, CGI, and more. At the very core, they also need to make money. Many fans get lost in the idea that more is always worse because whenever they think of spin-off shows, their mind goes straight to the Marvel Cinematic Universe or other failed universes. Knowing when to stop is very different from barely starting at all, and I think the MCU simply didn't know when to stop. Sure, they could have possibly made their world even better after the end of Phase 3 with Far From Home, but the chances of them messing it up were higher than ever after the insane peak of Infinity War and Endgame. You can argue the same with the DCU and the Arrowverse. Most of the shows started off pretty good, with some of them being worse than others. The first 3 seasons of The Flash are often considered some of the best superhero content we've ever gotten, but now no one thinks about The Flash positively anymore. Imagine if The Flash ended at season 4, if The Arrow ended at season 5, and instead they put all of their budget into one amazing show after. They're finally doing that with Superman and Lois, but the hype is nowhere near where it once was. This is exactly what The Boys are doing. Instead of dragging out their main show 10 seasons, they're wrapping up the storyline when it should be wrapped up and creating spin-offs for more natural content. If we look at The Boys universe so far, there's only been 2 projects. In those 2 projects, we've gotten 5 seasons of content. In my personal opinion, and what seems like the audience's opinion as well, is all 5 seasons of TV that we've gotten so far has been great. I think it's good to start worrying about quantity over quality when shows stop being faithful to the fans and start disappointing audiences. Even when shows like WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, and Moon Knight came out, many Marvel fans were still happy with the start of Phase 4. It wasn't until projects like Eternals, She-Hulk, Secret Invasion, and Echo when it became much more apparent that storylines were being rushed and Marvel content was no longer satisfying for audiences to watch. My point is that had Marvel kept up the quality that they had after Endgame, no one would have complained about too much content and no one would have called it superhero fatigue. Superhero fatigue is really just what people say when producers release poorly written projects without much thought. If The Boys universe has had good seasons consistently, there's no reason for them to stop now. I have faith that every project they release will be great, and I think everyone should feel the same way. At the end of the day, The Boys is one of the best shows to come out in recent years. For a lot of people, superhero TV shows are almost never their favorite shows. No one walks around saying Falcon and the Winter Soldier was the best show they've ever seen. It just doesn't really happen. If you ask a normal Gen Z person what their favorite show is, they'll probably say something like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul or Dexter or Mr. Robot. One of the only superhero show contenders I've seen up there is Daredevil. Besides that, the most highly rated superhero shows are The Punisher, Loki, and Peacemaker, but those still have their respective flaws. Even with that knowledge, The Boys has quickly become one of comic book fans' favorite shows of all time, and that doesn't go lightly at all. The show has had an insane run so far, taking the world by storm, and it's only going to get bigger from here.